Extreme sports games have been a staple of gaming since the PlayStation 1 era, with fantastic games such as SSX Tricky, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Skate, and even the Trials franchise. These are all sports that we love to watch but can't necessarily do in real life for one reason or another. But these games give us a way of experiencing these types of sports from the comfort of our own homes. And although playing these sports from the comfort of our own homes doesn't necessarily give us the same thrill as jumping over a ramp in real life, we get the thrill from pulling off massive combos and tricks that may not be possible in real life. Extreme sports games also give you and I a break from modern shooters, which are a big percentage of games being released in the current era of video games. And it's surprising to see how little extreme sports games are getting recognised over the past few years. It's quite shocking as the genre was quite prevalent in the early 2000s, and to see it just disappear is quite baffling. I remember loving extreme sports games as they were usually quite prevalent in arcades and therefore have many memories of playing them. My love for them hasn't dwindled, but I've just expanded to different genres, much like many other people would have. Video games have been constantly trying new things, experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. I feel like we have started to get fairly formulaic with our games, but if it works, it works. By doing this though, we leave out some older genres like the mascot platformers, which have been revitalised thanks to the Crash and Spyro remasters, and even extreme sports games are getting a bit more love with the most recent Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster that has rekindled my love for skateboarding. Steep is going to be the topic of this video as I feel like it's been slowly bringing people back to extreme sports games. Steep released all the way back in 2017 when no massive extreme sports games had been released, well, apart from Trials Fusion. Steep reintroduced winter sports games to the masses when there hadn't been anything to this scale or scope since Skate 3. Steep offered you a massive open world to traverse, offering skiing, snowboarding, wingsuit flying, or paragliding, and therefore you weren't stuck to just one mode of transportation in the world. Steep's map was very fun to traverse, offering ledges and cliffs to pull off some amazing tricks, and later down the line an extra 2 maps were added, offering slight diversity in the environments and scenery. Steep offered a large open world to slide down and didn't restrict the player where to go, unlike in previous generations, where you would usually have a set path you had to go down with slight variations in obstacles. Saying that, Steep does offer those linear missions which take you down a specific path and therefore are more appealing to older fans of the extreme sports genre, which I feel is a very nice touch as it also offers variety in those modes thanks to the different types of sports you can choose from. There are so many to choose from and getting through all of them was a pain for my platinum on Steep. But I am very proud to own that platinum as I am only in the 0.2% of players that have a platinum trophy on Steep. But with that little gloat out of the way, let's continue. Steep offered something that gamers were wanting, a chance to get away from an open world RPG or a first person shooter, and I believe it did do this, but sadly only for a short time. The hype for Steep died, for me personally, about a year after its release. I still come back to Steep during the winter months of the year for obvious reasons, and I always have a good time. It's just the fact that no one ever really talks about Steep anymore, and how much of an impact it could have had if we just had more consistent content. But by saying that, even Skate 3, one if not the most highly praised sports game ever created, next to the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise of course, minus 5, we don't talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. And through these skateboarding games we have found love for skateboarding, playing with our friends whilst doing mini games like Horse or Skate. Skate 3 only had semi-consistent content through DLC, and either way that has had such a big impact on the game, as people were demanding or hoping for a Skate 4 or even a Skate 3 remastered. This shows that it's not just about content or DLC, but the connection that the player has with the game and the memories that they have created whilst playing with friends. Steep didn't hone in on this factor for one reason or another. Perhaps the player base just didn't see Steep as a multiplayer game. I personally didn't even realise competitive modes were a feature until a few weeks ago. I was just happy to play missions and just see if any other players were doing the same one. Ubisoft certainly didn't advertise Steep as being a big multiplayer game, and that is possibly the reason why it didn't gain as much success as Skate or even the Pro Skater franchise. Steep could have really been one of the greats if Ubisoft just presented the game as more multiplayer focused. One thing that I do give Steep credit for is its environment and the way that you can traverse it. Steep offers you, the player, so many different sports to choose from, and this diversity means that you don't often get bored of just doing the same tricks over and over again whilst riding a snowboard. Instead, you can swap to skis, which offers some variation in your trick selection. This was a very nice touch from Ubisoft, as I feel like if we just had snowboarding as the only mode of transportation in Steep, it would have gotten very old very quickly. Choosing a different type of sport allows you to traverse the world differently. When paragliding, you get to see most of the map in front of you. Seeing a sunset hit the white snow is quite the sight to behold. This is often a feature left out of most extreme sports games, as although you can play in the environment, you don't often appreciate it in the same way as when you're focusing on the environment from a great height and just taking it all in. It's just something I'd like to add, as I feel like we always acknowledge that environments in games are there and they look good, but we never really take a step back to appreciate them. Steep's open world environment is very beautiful and fun to traverse in free roam. There's always a log, a hill, or a ramp to ride up. These little additions to the world make sure that you, the player, were not just riding down the mountain with no way to pull off decent combos or multipliers. Steep's world is intricately designed to encourage the player to pull off tricks, big and small, as even the smaller tricks are a fun bonus, and it's just the little things that count in an open world like this. The competitive multiplayer is still decently populated, as I have never really struggled to get into any matches, which is really surprising as most games' player bases would usually drop off by this point. But the actual game modes are really fun and highly replayable due to the variation of modes of transportation. Due to this, I never found myself getting bored in games, and that's why I'm so upset that Ubisoft didn't advertise Steep correctly, because it had so much more potential and promise than it actually received. Ubisoft appears to be rectifying their mistakes with one of their newest titles for the next generation called Riders Republic, which appears to be a spiritual successor to Steep by also adding new sports to add to the overall experience and replayability of the game. It appears to be the same type of successory as what Dark Souls is to Demon Souls. I am really excited for Riders Republic, as I hope it brings back the dying genre of extreme sports games that we have all been waiting for. The marketing in the gameplay trailer alludes to the fact that multiplayer will be a massive focus of this game, offering large races with multiple players, whether you're on a BMX, snowboard, or even skis. Riders Republic certainly looks to be an evolution on what Steep presented all those years ago. An evolution that will encourage new players to hop on and play with their friends, whilst seeing who can get the next biggest combo or who can get to the finish line first. I really feel like Riders Republic really does have potential in revitalizing the extreme sports genre, unlike Steep. Although Steep was a fantastic game and I and many others really did enjoy my time whilst playing Steep and all of its modes that it incorporated, it just didn't have what it takes to revitalize an entire genre. Maybe it's marketing focused and that's the reason why the game wasn't so popular, or it could generally be the fact that not many people enjoy playing extreme sports games anymore. Perhaps in the early 2000s, extreme sports games were just a trend, something that everyone wanted to hop on the bandwagon for. Although Steep offered a fun and fresh experience to gamers all around the world, that doesn't mean that it can just revive an entire genre. I mean, it is highly possible, but it just sadly didn't happen with Steep. Who knows, it might even happen with Riders Republic. But just because Steep didn't revive the extreme sports genre, that shouldn't diminish what a fantastic game it was, with a fantastic gameplay loop and fun gameplay. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, then subscribe and turn on that notification button so you don't miss another upload from me. So thank you and goodbye.